We are in the George D. Aiken Native Plants Garden, which exists directly behind the State House and was installed quite a number of years ago with the help of Vermont's Master Gardener program, where native plants of Vermont replaced previous plantings. And this focal point of the garden is a sculpture that has been installed only within the last year. It's by Paul Calter of Randolph, Vermont, one of Vermont's better-known sculptors. And Paul created this piece using samples of virtually every type of stone found in Vermont, the three major types of stone being marble, granite, and slate. And he has a number of different colors, of course, since a wide variety of those stones can be found within the boundaries of Vermont. And it's nestled into a typical garden like dome-like creation that slants it toward the viewer and makes you think this is part of the universe, since this is one of those typical metal frames that one might see doing that. It's a very successful sculpture, one that can be seen through the windows of the State House cafeteria, as this is a garden that is appreciated through glass as opposed to actually being in the garden for the most part.
Hello, everybody. So thank you for all coming. We actually have a public hearing to get to, so we're going to kind of make it brief, and you'll get to the cake, and we'll get to the public hearing. This is a celebration of the 20th anniversary for the Vermont State House Capitol Police. The Capitol Police Department was established in 1999. Ironically, this was the same year that I started working. Someone might have sent some trouble, but it might have just been a coincidence. The Capitol Police Department is created within the office of the Sergeant-at-Arms, and the Capitol Police officers shall have all the same powers and authority as sheriffs and other law enforcement officers anywhere in the state. What the Sergeant-at-Arms giveth, the Sergeant-at-Arms can taketh away. The Capitol Police Department, in all seriousness, the Capitol Police Department's mission is to provide protection for Vermont State House, the legislature, employees, visitors, and facilities, so it can fulfill its constitutional and legislative responsibilities in a safe, secure, and open environment. One thing that I would like to mention, I feel bad, on our resolution it was inadvertently left off that one of our part-time officers, Joe Aldsworth, was not on there. And some of you may know Joe. Joe was back here in 1999 during the Civil Union as a part-time sheriff. So thank you, Joe, for your service, and thank you for being a mentor to the chief and keeping the chief in line. I'd like to take this time to thank the Capitol Police for all of the obvious things they do that all of you see, but also for their behind-the-scene leadership, integrity, professionalism, and dedicated service to the Vermont State House and to me as Sergeant-at-Arms. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet. For those that don't remember, about 2 years ago, I walked into this building scared half to death because I had no idea what in the hell I'd just gotten myself into taking this job. But I got to tell you, it is a job I wake up most every day, and I am really glad to come to work here. And it's not honestly because of you, it's because of these folks right here. There's 135 years of law enforcement experience on the Capitol Police Department. And you know, there's a lot of days I feel like we use every year of experience in what we deal with here, and quite frankly, what we keep underneath the calm surface so that the legislature can do their job. I'm wicked proud of these folks here, and I'm proud that we've made our 20 years. And you know, when you look back 20 years, what the Capitol Police have seen transpire under the Golden Dome, I can't imagine what the next 20 are going to bring. I would be remiss to say, without saying that we don't do this on our own. I've got friends down here from the state police, the Fish and Wildlife guys help us out all the time, liquor control, motor vehicle officers. We're all in this fight together, and we're all here to keep the building and the legislature safe. So I got a couple of things to give here, and the first one, because we are getting new badges this year, and the first one I want to give is to Janet Miller, the Sergeant at Arms.
Am I allowed to have this?
I will say this ain't going to get you out of no tickets.
I can say that I won't be getting a ticket, not like some people I may.
So, thank you, Janet. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce the Pro Tem, sir.
Well, thank you, Chief. I just got a text. There were reports that Representative Kate Webb was on a crime spree in the unattended House committee rooms because you were all here, but I see that these are false because Representative Webb is here with us. Sorry, Kate. I think on behalf of the Senate, it is no stretch to say that our Capitol Police are really part of the family that makes up the State House. We think of the legislature and the committee staff, the people in the committee rooms, but especially for those of us who are here early and who are here late, the men and women and the chief of our Capitol Police Department really are so critical to the work that we do. I've been here for very hotly contested debates. I've been here when there has been a lot of emotion running around in the State House, but I've never once felt that things weren't in control thanks to our Capitol Police. And I should say, there are times when people say to me, there is a Capitol Police Department, and I think that's actually one of the greatest testaments there could be to how successful a job that our Capitol Police Department do for us, because when we don't notice the work they're doing means that they're doing their work at the very highest level. So on behalf of the Senate, I want to thank you guys, congratulate you on 20 years, and also note that it's very rare that a resolution that comes from the House to the Senate is then sent back with an amendment. And I know that Ray Quiro, whose wife Roxy was a longtime Senate staff person, we wanted to add some additional language because he in some ways was the first officer serving this building. So this particular resolution in recognition of the work you guys do has a special meaning, I think, for the Senate in light of that history. So thank you so much for the work you do.
We are incredibly, incredibly lucky to have all of you here. This is a really special building. I am so proud of how open and accessible this State House is to Vermonters, how easily Vermonters can come and participate in their democracy. And because of the openness and honesty that happens when that participation happens, it can be contentious, it can be difficult, we can get crowds, and it takes a very, very special police force to recognize their role of serving and protecting. But here in this building, what they're also protecting is accessibility and participation. And on behalf of Vermonters' democracy, I am really grateful to all of you that recognize that your police service in this building is a little different than in other places, because it is your job to make sure that people can get here, to make sure that many, many voices can be heard in a respectfully and orderly fashion. And I'm deeply appreciative to all of you. Thanks for such a good job that you do here, for respecting your job so well, and thank you so much for all of your friendship.
One of the things that marks a law enforcement officer's authority back to the old Western days was a shield or a badge. And sometimes that was all that it took to establish authority, to establish faith and honor and duty to their service. This year, we, in honor of our 20th anniversary, we've we're deploying some new badges that have the State House on them, so that throughout our service, throughout our activity in this building, we remember where democracy starts in Vermont, and that's right here under this golden dome. So if you'll give me just a minute, Janet and I are going to pin all of our folks, and then we'll have cake. Yep. I hope everybody's wearing body armor. That. Thank you. All right, that's it. Janet's going to handle the cake. Enjoy. Thank you for being with us. And thank you especially to our leadership.
Good morning. This is Representative Marty Feltus. I live in Lyndonville, and I represent Lyndon, Sutton, and Burke. It's called Caledonia 4. There are 2 representatives in my district. Patrick Seymour is the second representative, and he happens to have the distinction of being the youngest representative in the State House. I'm not the oldest, but I'm one of the older ones, so we make a good pair, I think. I serve on the Appropriations Committee in the House. And my particular responsibility in working with the budget is the Agency of Digital Services, which oversees all of the IT efforts around the state, or state government. I also review the Public Utility Commission, which is involved in regulating our utilities, and the Public Service Department, which looks at the public's interest in the public utilities. And I also work with the Department of Environmental Conservation. So that's a variety of things that cover different parts of state government, and they expend quite a bit of money. So obviously looking at how they expend that money is important to all of us. The budget from the House side went over to the Senate at the end of March, and they are currently tearing it all apart, we understand. So we will have to see what they present when it comes back to us. And likely there will be many differences, and we will have to reconcile what their preferences are over the House preferences, and finally come up with a proposal that we will send off to the governor jointly.
Hi, I'm Charen Fegard from Berkshire. I represent Highgate, Franklin, Berkshire, and Richford. And today I would like to talk about a few things, the first of which I think is the most important, is citizen involvement. I feel strongly that people only contact their elected representatives when there's one hot topic that they want to weigh in on. And I strongly encourage you to please look me up and read my updates at charenfegard.com. And if you have any desire to weigh in, please email me or call me. I really want to hear what you have to say about the topics that matter to you. If more people participated, we wouldn't find ourselves complaining as much because our legislators would more directly represent our needs and desires. The State House is a bit empty today because we lost one of our representatives. Representative Fegard passed a couple weeks ago and had served here. He was in his 80s and it was unexpected, so people are at his service. And so we're delaying some of our activities till a little bit later today. A couple of the issues that I would like to talk about specific to policy, one of them is minimum wage. I believe strongly that when people work 40 hours a week, they should be able to make ends meet. They should be able to pay their bills and raise their families. Unfortunately, as a small state with a tiny economy, a lot of these issues can't be fixed without the ramification of sinking small businesses. Any of the elder care facilities or visiting nurses, they rely on Medicaid and Medicare reimbursements in order to pay their bills, and those reimbursements are not going to go up. And I have heard from one of the local facilities in my area that they will go under. They wish they could pay their people more, but they can't. A couple other communities, or I should say sectors that will be strongly impacted, dairy farmers that are selling to Ben & Jerry's. They are in the Milk with Dignity program, and they already have to pay minimum wage. As we continue to lose our small and medium farms, this is going to drive them out even faster. And these are the ones that have stepped up to make sure that they are treating their workers well. It would have a terrible impact on them. And what some people might think of as the future of farming, the diversified farms, the orchards, they have reached out to me. Over 50 of those farms in Vermont use the H-2A program, meaning they hire seasonal migrant workers. They have to pay minimum wage plus over $1 more than that. They're already paying 13 something an hour, plus housing, plus transportation. This will undermine our attempt to have a thriving working landscape. It will also lend itself to the further consolidation into larger chain facilities for our elder care and our visiting nurse opportunities. And a number of small businesses have reached out to me that it will put an undue burden on them. And in my perfect world, we have a lot of small, thriving businesses that are very much tied to the communities where they're operating, not Walmarts. So I cannot support an increase in the minimum wage. I would like to see at the national level people who are making $11 billion a year pay taxes. That would alleviate a lot of the issues that we have. The other thing is on-farm slaughter, and I brought this up last time, and I have some good news. Currently, the statute requires that you sell the animal live, and you can only sell it to one individual in state statute. I feel some confidence we are going to see that change, that while everything else will stay in place, we're going to delay the sunset for 4 years and allow multiple purchasers, which means that those who are selling beef now have this option. And I know rural Vermont is going to do a lot of outreach to make sure people understand the rules, so people are registering and reporting, which will provide a level of confidence so that we can eventually remove the sunset altogether. But they are also going to collect data about what role this plays in farm viability, because this stream of income can be really important, especially for the small diversified farms. And I think that's a wrap. Thank you.
John Killacky, representative from South Burlington. This week I had the really honor of reporting on the House floor, Senate 6-8, which was to change the name of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. This has been a long time coming. It was a lot of research was done about this. It was in 2011 and 12 that the 4 Abenaki tribes were recognized by the Native Commission, but there wasn't really any recognition beyond that has been given in our state. And it is a really sad history. The Abenakis have been written out of our history. In the 1930s, there was a eugenics program in Vermont, and there was coerced sterilization for the Abenaki people. So what happened was many people went up into Canada, they disappeared, they assimilated, and they denied their Abenaki lineages, and they told their children they couldn't actually be Indian anymore, they had to pass. And so it was kind of a legacy of the lost tribes in Vermont that took a long time to build their cultures back. In 2017, I did an exhibition when I was still at the Flynn called Wearing Our Heritage, which was with the Abenaki Artists Association and the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. And it was incredible at this opening because there were grandmothers crying as they were holding their grandchildren, and they were showing historical photos of their mothers and their fathers, and all of that had been lost. What was nice is Governor Shumlin and Governor Scott in the last 3 years did executive proclamations naming Indigenous Peoples Day for Columbus Day. So all we did was build on that tradition, came from the Senate, and it passed the House yesterday, and going forward, we will now celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. But for me, that does not erase Columbus, but it creates a more complete history and more complex narrative for us all to understand, because the Abenaki have been here for 12,000 years. No one discovered them. They were here. And now we can have a conversation about, for all of us, to complete it, to have a complete history now. And I'm really very proud to have been able to report that on the House floor this week here in Montpelier.
Hi, Jeanette White, Senator from Windham County. Been here for a long time. You've probably seen me before. And as a matter of fact, this is my 17th year. It's hard to believe that, but here I am. So just before I start here, I just want to say that for those of you who aren't lucky enough to come up to the State House all the time, we have an art exhibit in the State House cafeteria all the time, and it's by local artists, sometimes legislators. There's an amazing display here of animals in their natural environment. It is just beautiful. I cannot help but comment on it. It is, so if you happen to come up to the State House within the next, I don't know how long it'll stay, but please make a point of looking at them. They are just beautiful. So now that the advertisement is over, I chair government operations in the morning in the Senate, and I sit on in the afternoon, and I sit on Judiciary in the morning. In Judiciary, we're looking at a lot of issues around fair and impartial policing, immigration policy, bias-related incident reporting, and we're also looking at that in government operations because law enforcement is one of our areas of concern. We did pass out in government operations, we passed out a bill that we've been referring to as the burn pit bill. And if you don't know what burn pits are, they're big pits that they dig in the theaters of operation and times of war. And there are 5 identified places right now. And they dig these pits. Some of them are as big as 3 football fields, and they dump everything in them that the military needs to do away with. They old Jeeps, tires, ammunition, old guns, body parts, human excrement, animals that hang around, worn out tents, building materials, and then they just douse them with an accelerant and burn them. And the Institute of Medicine has discovered at least 51 toxins that are released from there, and what happens is that they get in the air, so they get on the soldiers' bodies, they get in their lungs, and they get in the sand, and the sand there is like, every time you take a step, it's like stepping on baby powder, it puffs up. So actually it just becomes a part of their bodies. And these are very, very toxic, and it is, I believe, our generation's Agent Orange, and we're hoping that we can get veterans signed up for what's called the burn pit registry, because the faster we can get people signed up, the more attention will be brought to it, and the faster that the VA can start identifying presumptive diseases that are related to the burn pits. So if you're out there and you know a veteran, or you have, contact the office of the Vermont Office of the Veterans Administration or the National Guard, and they'll walk you through signing up. It's really, really important. That bill we are hoping will come out of the House pretty soon, and then it'll be signed by the governor. He's very supportive, and we've been working with him on that. We also sent out of our committee an amendment to the Constitution which would eliminate the reference to what seems to be some misunderstanding. It seems to say that we abolished slavery, but only after you reached the age of 21. And that really wasn't the way it was written. The abolishment of over 21 related to indentured servitude, and most states in the country at that time, you became free from indentured servitude at the age of 30. So we were very progressive. We said males at 21 and 18 for females. But it's been interpreted to seem to imply that we condoned slavery until the age of 21. We've changed that. We've reworded it. So now this amendment will be worked on, or will be voted on in the whole Senate next Wednesday. And I believe that's the 24th of April, and we have to have 20 votes to pass it, and then it goes to the House where they need to have a majority. And then if you don't know how this Constitution amendment works, next biennium, when there are new legislators, it has to come back and pass again by a majority in both the House and the Senate. And then if that happens in November of 2022, which would be the next general election, it'll go out to the entire population and has to pass by a majority. So we're hoping that helps some. We heard from a lot of people of color who felt that it will make them feel safer if we're very clear that slavery and indentured servitude are prohibited in any form. At any time. So that's what we've been up to. We continue to work on lots of other issues, and again, if you have any suggestions or complaints or anything, feel free to call your legislator. We're always here. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Senator Brock, representing the Franklin District. This week, the Senate passed an economic development bill that includes a remote worker provision. And maybe many of you will remember that last year we passed a bill regarding remote workers that paid up to $10,000 to an individual who came to Vermont from out of state who worked remotely for a company that was out of state. And the purpose of that, and many people, I think, raised some eyebrows about it, of why are we paying people to come to Vermont? Well, the reason then, and it's even greater now, is that we're short about 10,000 workers. We don't have enough people to fill jobs that we have in Vermont, and that's become a real problem. One of the ways we tried to cure that problem last year was the remote worker program. And it's very interesting because it kicked in beginning this year with actual benefits. And now we can begin to measure what do we get for it. Well, the first thing we got was 29 people in the first 3 months of the year who moved to Vermont. With family members, they totaled 69 people. Most of whom, all but very few, were under 40 years of age, and many of them had relatively high incomes. Now, again, you'd ask yourself, why would you pay someone with a relatively high income to come to Vermont? Why is it good for Vermont taxpayers? Well, think about it for a second. Where can you spend $3,600, which is the average that we actually paid out, not $10,000, and get back more than twice as much money, in some cases more than twice as much money, in 1 year? We're getting a real return on investment in terms of the total taxes, both income taxes as well as property taxes, other consumption taxes, sales taxes, and other activity that these people are bringing to Vermont. And that's what we need to help fill our tax coffers and also fill our schools. Because one of the things is many of these people are bringing school-age children with them. This year, our tax bill continues the remote worker program, except in this case we're focused on bringing workers in from out of state to fill jobs in Vermont businesses that are here. That benefits our communities, that benefits the employers who are not able to hire in state. Remember, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation. We're down to about 2.3%. And for that, what that means basically is it's virtually impossible for many businesses to hire people, particularly in jobs such as nursing and construction that are critical skills that we need. This is an important bill. I'm very pleased to know that it passed in the Senate 27-2, which showed overwhelming bipartisan support for this initiative. There are a lot of controls in it, a lot of controls associated with it to make sure that it works as intended, brings us the revenue we need, brings us the people we need. But we also have to answer that question, does this disadvantage Vermonters? What are we doing to Vermonters if we're paying people from out of state? Well, that's another part of a bill that we're working on, which is our workforce development bill. But right now we have 69 different programs that spend over $50 million a year on Vermonters here in Vermont for training, for workforce development, for providing skills to Vermonters to enable them to fill the jobs that we have on the one hand, but also to be able to advance in their professional careers. So we're doing a lot to try to make Vermont better, to make our economy stronger, and also to take care of the people that we have here. Thanks very much.